Absolutely brilliant. Thank you, Sonia. When I started doing some news reports last year on the COVID stats, I very quickly got picked up by the COVID medical network to do some reporting and met some people that became my mentors. And the first person I was told that I needed to speak to in politics was the lead Senate candidate for the Liberal Democrat, and his name is John Ruddock. And what a thrill it was to meet you, to speak to you, and to have you here tonight. Please take the stage.
Just a little bit of housekeeping first. Can I ask if anybody here hasn't had their 15th COVID vaccine boost? please wear a mask and socially distance, because you're in danger. You're in danger. But did you hear today in Victoria, I'm hearing mixed numbers here because the corporate media is just not telling us the truth. No. But I'm hearing 2,500 teachers in Victoria today were sacked, or stood down at least, because they didn't take the third vaccine. Okay, so they've had two. They've had their two. Okay, and everybody's got, well, most people, teachers have all got their Facebook or their Twitter or whatever, and as much as the social media giants try to suppress the stuff about vaccine injuries and other things, okay, and not only put aside vaccine injuries, just how well the vaccine is working, okay, they try to put that aside. So everybody's seen it. Now, we're not talking about 25 teachers or 250 teachers. I'm seeing reports on the mainstream media. 2,500 teachers say, I don't want the third vaccine. Now, why are they so obsessive about the vaccine? Okay, well, look, I think this is what happens, okay? You might remember there was a political figure called Donald Trump, okay? Now, I know that there will be mixed views in this room about Donald Trump. There is all around the world, okay? I like Donald Trump, but we're not here to talk about Donald Trump, okay? But even the people in the room that don't like Donald Trump will acknowledge that there were people who were mental, like fanatical about destroying Donald Trump. They'd do anything, okay? They'd invent Russian collusion delusion. They invented some nonsense in Ukraine. I mean, Trump did give us world peace and he did give us prosperity, but put that aside. They wanted to destroy Trump. So then what happened? What happened? In 10 months before his re-election, he was on track to get re-elected. They only had Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden as the primary again. They were in trouble. Okay? So then what happens is, it's the winter in the Northern Hemisphere, a bad flu comes along, okay? And guess what? Every year, every winter, there's a flu that comes along. Sometimes it's a modest one, sometimes it's a normal one, sometimes it's a bad one. Once every 2 decades or something, a real bad one comes along. Okay, now once a century or something, a real killer comes along, like the Spanish flu 100 years ago, which killed 50 million people, and that's when the population of the world was probably a third of what it is today. So we're nothing like that. This was in the category of a bad flu, once that comes along every couple of decades. Okay, it's just a random thing. Okay, and this is what happened. So what the people that hated Trump, they said, okay, let's get this flu, this bad flu, let's make it 20 times worse than it is. Let's hype everybody up and let's blame it all on Donald Trump. Okay, and that's what happened. That is what I believe happened. Okay, and if it should have been treated, if it was just treated for what it was worth to be treated, there should have been no government restrictions, but the government should have said, look, there's a pretty bad flu out there, you've got to be careful, particularly if you're old, particularly if you've got pre-existing conditions. Go about your life, but be careful, okay, because this is a bad flu, okay. But they hyped it up, Trump loses, so apparently. And then they have to come up with a solution. They don't want this hysteria going on forever because they are now in power. So and by this stage, the world's corporate media is totally on board because they all hated Trump. The Australian corporate media hated Trump. So they're all on board with it. They're all all the media, all the TV, all the politicians, all the bureaucrats. They're all personal. All these powerful people in the world are all so invested in COVID being 20 times worse than it was. Okay, and you notice they had to give it a name, COVID-19. Okay, they couldn't just call it the Spanish flu or the Asian flu or the Chinese flu. Whatever they had to name it. COVID-19, it's like a sci-fi thing. It's like some, wow man, it's like some space invading thing. Okay. So then they had to come up, so they hyped it up, but then they wanted to roll it back. So they had to be our saviours. They had to come up with the vaccine. Okay. we've got this massive crisis, and now we've got the answer, the amazing vaccine. Now, look, I've never given, I know that our IMOC friends are in the room, and I love the IMOC people. Every time I meet them, I love them. These are people, I understand it, have pre-COVID have had concerns about vaccines, okay? I never thought about vaccines in my life, okay? When my kids were born, doctor says get them a vaccine, so of course, never thought, you know? And, but when the flu vaccine came out 10 years ago, I sort of thought about it for 2 seconds, and I thought, oh, I don't think I'll get that. I just thought, look, flu's a natural thing, and I thought, I don't know what they're putting in me. But no one ever asked me, oh, have you had your flu vaccine? You can't come to the party unless you've had your flu vaccine. You can't get your job unless you had your flu vaccine. No one ever thought about the silly, okay? And probably, I'm guessing half of my mates took the flu vaccine. I never thought about it, okay? But then I thought, when I did know with vaccines that occasionally they backfire, okay? And the pharmaceutical companies are meant to pay out a lot of liability when that happens, but not on this occasion. But I just thought, look, vaccines take typically many years to get to market. And I thought they rushed this one. They rushed this one to market because they had to be our saviour. And some people said, gee, well, it's come to market a little bit quickly. And then they say, oh, you're an anti-vax extremist. You're a conspiracy theorist. Okay. Well, I said, well, I'm not going to take it. Now, when it first came out, I said to personal mates, I might have even said on Twitter, I'm a bit of a Twitter addict, I said, look, my personal view about this is, I studied history and I've worked in banking, okay, so don't rely on me for your medical advice, okay? But I remember saying to people in sort of beginning of last year, when we're all told, we're going to have the vaccines, I remember saying to mates, I said, look, my hunch is this, 90% chance it will be helpful, 5% chance it'll just be neutral, and 5% chance it'll backfire. And I said, I'd rather get COVID than have that 5% chance. Now, what have we seen since they've all forced this thing on us, okay? Well, first we were told by Dr. Fauci, good news everybody, we've got the vaccine, take one, you won't get COVID, you won't get sick, you won't pass it on. All good news. Oh, thank you, Dr. Fauci. Thank you so much, we love you, Dr. Fauci.
Immunity at 65%.
That's right, yes, that's right. So that's where we take one vaccine, it's all done. It's all done. Line up, world, get your vaccine. Okay. Well, we give it to you for free. And in the unlikely event that there's this is what they said, unlikely event that there's an adverse reaction, the pharmaceutical company doesn't have to pay you. And then the pharmaceutical company got the world's media to give you endless free promotion, got the world's governments to force it on people. Gee, what a business model. You can't lose, okay? Okay, now so everyone starts taking the vaccine. Oh, and then a couple of months later, Fauci says, look, you actually need 2. And everyone says, oh, well, okay, well, he says. But most people, at that stage when it was 2, people in this room probably started saying, okay. Okay, then 2 comes on, then everyone still keeps catching it, everyone still keeps getting sick, okay. Then they say, look, we didn't expect this, but just take the 3rd one and you'll be right. Just take the 3rd one. Okay. So here we are. Now, look. The corporate media is distorting it. They are not telling us the truth because all these powerful people, all these people you see on TV, they're all getting paid $500,000 a year. They're all big names. They're all so invested in it. They've all told everyone in this room that you're conspiracy nutters, okay? So it's not like they're going to turn around quickly and say, oh, look, we were all wrong about that, okay? And I don't know whether that's the case. I don't know. I mean, I see social media, I see a lot of different things, but it's hard to know what the truth is. But my anecdotal evidence, amongst my circle of friends, when people around Christmas, when there was a pretty lot, I live in Sydney, but there was a lot of people getting COVID, and it seemed to be affecting people quite equally whether you were vaxxed or unvaxxed. That's what it seemed to be the case. Okay, so I thought, well, what happened with the vaccine? Okay. Well, now we're coming into winter. I'm noticing a lot of people are getting COVID / the flu. And I'm finding that people that haven't taken the vaccine are the ones that aren't getting the flu. Now, that is just my anecdotal evidence. I don't rely on it, but I mean, that is what I am seeing. Anyway, look, we've got more speakers here. I think we're going to have some Q&A, aren't we? So I'm going to wrap up. But look, just quickly, what's all of these parties? Minor parties historically have hated each other's guts because they're all fighting over a small little share of the pie. At this election, we all love each other. We're all brothers and sisters, aren't we? We all love each other, I want to get elected to the Senate for the Liberal Democrats, okay? I'll be disappointed if I don't get elected, okay? But I'll tell you what, I'll be pretty happy if Dominic does, or our IMOP friends, or our One Nation friends. What we need to start to turn this country around is we need one freedom-friendly candidate from each of the states to get elected. I think it's very possible. And then we've already got a few in there. We've got a couple of One Nation people in there, okay, and there's some good Liberals, not many, but there are some very good Liberals in there. And we can really, but look, imagine if we had this election, it's only on in 3 weeks and 2 days. Imagine if it's just status quo, Liberal wins, Labor wins, and there's no big surge for the freedom-friendly party. I mean, tell you, it's going to be disappointing, isn't it? So let's hope, I think the polls are understating the freedom-friendly vote. But look, just quickly, on the, what's different about the Liberal Democrats? Okay. We have been a small party for 21 years, and we have been talking about freedom all that time, like a broken record. Freedom in all regards, okay? Now, we're talking about freedom when it's not popular, when it was forgotten about, when everyone assumed, well, Australia's a free country, Australia's a free country. Who was the first political party in Australia to say COVID lockdowns should not be happening? It was the Liberal Democrats, because this is our thing. This is what we're all on about. So it's not just freedom like from COVID hysteria, it's freedom from the government. Okay, if we look across history, the great nations have got two common characteristics, great and virtuous. Okay, democracy, pretty simple. Okay, where the individuals are basically in control of the country, and free enterprise, small government, let the people flourish. There was a very wise man, I don't think it was Confucius, but one of those old Chinese sages about 2,500 years ago. He says, when the emperor does, the less the emperor does, the more that gets done. Okay, now that is libertarianism 101. If the emperor just sits there and does, and when the emperor, Prime Minister in our case, meddles, said, oh, well, look, we've got a problem over there, we're going to put a new government program and we're going to fix it. Well, the problem over there, oh, well, new government, here's some money, we'll fix that, okay. The Liberal Democrat approach is, look, let the people flourish, let the people live their life as they see fit. In a lot of cases, that'll be people want to have a happy family, make some money. Now, some people are going to want to make a lot of money, and God bless them, good on them. Okay, but you might want to study butterflies. Okay, whatever gets you going, but we just want to give people freedom, and people will make mistakes with freedom. People will get addicted to drugs or gambling for a brief period. Most people go through these bad patches in their life once or twice. Okay, but give people the freedom. Some people will abuse that freedom and learn from it, but most of the time, on average, things will go fantastic. So that's what the Liberal. Now, I know there's other parties here saying freedom, freedom, freedom. Okay, well, that's us. But look, you can't have freedom unless you are actually proposing to cut the size of the government. Well, that's our whole thing. Okay, we want Australia to have a much smaller government. So we're saying, we've got this monstrous debt. We've got, Sonia said, it's well over $1 trillion. Well, and no one's talking about it. Labor and Liberal aren't talking about it. In fact, ScoMo, we've got this outbreak of inflation. So I saw the news last night. ScoMo's going to give people, here's $250 into your bank account, or $400. That's to help with your cost. This is what's causing the inflation, all this nonsense, okay? So I hope you can consider the Liberal Democrats. We've got Sonia here. I'm running in the, and John Larter is running on our Senate campaign. A lot of you will know John Larter. He's a great guy. So I'll finish up there, and hopefully we'll hang around and have a cup of tea afterwards.